of the entire Central America. This was a shallow earthquake just 10 kilometers below the seabed, which meant that it would have been felt it very, very strongly because of it being so shallow. This is an area not so densely populated, a mining area called Iquique. We're seeing people there in the streets, lots of people who are out there for safety. Some are in their cars. Authorities are trying to direct traffic, and people just trying to stay in safety. I'd like to bring in now Samantha Moore, who has more. Sam, what are you seeing?
Well, you can see we have the red dot here on the map off the coast of Chile, and of course that represents the epicenter where we had the 8.0 shock take place, and then we had some aftershocks since then. You can see we've already had several of them. Those are represented by the yellow dots here off the coast primarily, and then the yellow color you see here draped along the coastline. Wherever you are seeing that yellow color, that's where they have felt very strong shaking all across the region. Now, they turned the pager color green largely because it's not as densely populated as it would be in some other areas, but still with strong shaking, very strong shaking across the region, you know they're going to be seeing some damage across the area because the impacts are going to be very, very strong indeed. So we're talking about this type of earthquake at this type of shallowness at 10 meters or so. When you get up into this kind of magnitude where we get into the 8.0 range, that's where we could see communities destroyed, literally, homes, buildings reduced to rubble, people trapped, that kind of peril when you get this kind of destruction. So comparing it to the other magnitudes, obviously, we're getting up into that range where there could be a great damage. So here are always the precautions as these aftershocks continue to unfold. Of course, some of the structures could be compromised, so may not be as stable as they were earlier in the day due to the shocks that they have already felt. So, of course, the rolls being dropped to get underneath things that are sturdy, a table, under a beam, a main support beam of a building, under a doorway, and then also, of course, to hold on for dear life, literally, as some of these aftershocks could potentially still be quite strong, Ralitza. So, of course, this and the main threat of that tsunami, the tsunami watch that is in place down the coast, and even more importantly, in Chile, Peru, and Ecuador, tsunami warning, as they believe that tsunami conditions are imminent. So that's why a warning has been issued for Chile, Peru, as well as Ecuador. So we'll continue to follow this developing situation, Ralitza.
Sam, thank you very much for that. I'd like to bring in now Bruce Postgrave, who is with the USGS, joining us now. What can you tell us about your readings of this powerful earthquake?
Well, as has been said, our preliminary magnitude is 8.0 for this earthquake. That is obviously a very big earthquake. It is, if it were inland, it would close to a city. It could produce devastating effects. This quake is out to sea, about almost 100 kilometers northwest of the city of Iquique, and the region of Chile where this is, the region of Tarapaca, is part of the Atacama Desert, one of the driest places on Earth. So population is very sparse in the immediate epicentral area along the shore. Probably the biggest risk for this earthquake would be tsunami damage. And as you have reported, a tsunami watch and tsunami watches and warnings have been issued by the Tsunami Warning Centers in Hawaii.
And we're also hearing that there are already 2-meter waves generated. What is the destructive force of such waves?
Waves, as we saw in Sumatra and in Japan and indeed in southern Chile several years ago, tsunami waves can produce very substantial damage and cause great great risk for life and property.
Yes, and we do remember the 8.8 earthquake in 2010, again in Chile. It killed almost 500 people, very, very destructive, because the earthquake was also accompanied by a very destructive tsunami. How does this quake in magnitude compare to an 8 point?
Of that,
yeah.
And indeed, the majority of the casualties from that earthquake were not from shaking, but from the tsunami itself.
And how does the magnitude of an 8.0 compare to that destructive one, 8.8 in 2010?
Magnitude 8.0 would be somewhere, just a rough estimate, would be about 25 times smaller in terms of energy release.
And this one is a very shallow earthquake, so it would have been stronger and more destructive.
Preliminary indications are that depth is somewhere in the 10 to 20 kilometer range. That is shallow, but certainly not unexpected for this type of earthquake.
Thank you very much. I've been speaking with Bruce Fosbury with the USGS. Thank you so much for the U.S. Geological Survey talking to us about their measuring this very strong earthquake, 8.0 earthquake, which struck off the coast of Chile, about 100 kilometers under the seabed northwest of the mining town of Iquique. We're watching those pictures there we have just received from people in Iquique, out in the streets, outdoors for safety. And now we join Anderson Cooper in progress. We will continue to bring the latest on this powerful earthquake.